Yes. So we're going to go. I'm going to let Stacy talk for just a second about our some results from our how to incorporate environmental justice, diversity, equity, inclusion in a living lab in just a second. I did want to thank. We should give a shout out Isabella for being the master of ceremonies tonight. Stacy also for coming and doing her the keynote, as long as is also really helping us put together the last session. Ben for leading that, Matt Sinclair, Sherry behind the scenes did a ton of work. Also, there was a committee, including Eric and others, Alex, who met for weeks to try to put this thing together. It was a topic that we felt was a little bit narrower than in the past, but we thought it was timely and potentially interesting. The session we did on incorporating environmental justice didn't have a ton of people in it, but I think it was a good session and we learned a lot. And I think it would be useful, Matt, someday to give this session to some of the people who are starting out living labs, because I think that it would be a really good thing to get people to participate in. So it's just something I wanted to mention. Josh, did I mention it? Who did I forget to thank besides you?
I think you hit it. This was what we had on the next slide.
Okay. And so Sherry, you want to talk for a couple minutes about what Stacy, you want to talk for a couple minutes about what we found in session 3A?
Sure, yes, thanks. As Kurt mentioned, it was a small session, but we had a really interesting conversation. And I think it was useful for me at a meta level to see how people in this group are thinking about these issues. We heard about or discussed 3 projects, one focused on food waste to energy, one focused on strategies for creating pathways for apartment owners, renters, not owners, but renters, to participate in the energy transition, because a lot of other programs are not accessible to them. And then also kind of ways to engage students and professionals in the community in real world programs related to community services like housing, healthcare, and emergency services. So a wide array of projects. I think that what was interesting for our discussion today, and maybe not exactly what I anticipated, but given the nature of those projects, they were spanning the borders of organizations. People weren't really talking about something that happens within a particular organization, like some living labs pretty much happen within the university or another organization. These were going beyond that sphere. And so a lot of what we talked about was actually diversity or diversity-minded ways of interacting with members outside of our own organizations. And there were, some great ideas about who needed to be connected to for each of those projects. And I think the one barrier that stood out to me that one of the discussion participants mentioned was the need or the value of finding or creating a structure to get projects going and keep them going, because they don't happen within the normal business of one organization, but are kind of outside of that sphere. That is a really important aspect, getting that structure needed to keep them going. I think my last thought about our discussion there was a reflection on the practice of active listening. So we started the session with trying that out, just giving it a really short try. And I think it was useful to see how there is a little learning curve. It's not part of the dominant culture to participate by listening carefully and just reflecting back what you hear rather than responding to what someone else says. And so, one way that you can prepare yourself for supporting inclusive conversations, decision-making, is really just boosting that skill set, getting used to it. It's not difficult, but it's unfamiliar often. And that, it can, if you practice that, it can really help you check your own ability to understand or connect with the people you are seeking to collaborate with or serve. if you give them the chance to correct you when you misheard them, that is a part of active listening. And that practice of really being there and listening can go a long way to, I think, the key strategy that a lot of our discussion members talked about, which was developing the cultural competency necessary to really meet the community members in a context that makes sense to them, that involves them and actually enables like co-creating level projects. So I really enjoyed that. I think it's a great start for a larger discussion about how to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion and environmental justice into these kinds of projects we're working on.
Thanks, Stacey. And a subset of active listening is just plain listening, which, you know, also we all struggle with. So what it does is it gives you a tool for actually just listening, which is part of active listening. So appreciate that. And I want to give a shout out to everybody. Thank you so much for coming. We will be planning an in-person workshop in spring with a smaller group of people, more focused. We'll use some of the learning from this gem to figure out what we're going to do the next, and we'll be reaching out to you guys. And also the surveys will help us on that. So appreciate you coming. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the organizers. And anything last thing to say, Josh? Anything?
No, I mean, it's always really impressive to see how many people join these and are interested, and we really appreciate any feedback you can give us, and looking forward to hopefully seeing some of you all in person soon.
Yep. Thank you.